So up until this point, the Child's Play franchise has had a pretty good run. This franchise was on par with the likes of the Evil Dead franchise or the Scream franchise. You know, the type of film franchise that has no bad movies in them. Like, sure, there's a few missteps here and there, but none of the movies are bad. And this series of Chucky films was right on par with those franchises. And then this movie comes out and all of that goes out the window. So, yeah, let's get spooky. Greetings everyone y bienvenidos a todos. My name is Nightshade. This is The Night Shift, a home for all things spooky. And today we're looking at The Seed of Chucky, released in 2004. And this movie absolutely just sucks.
Fucking thing sucks!
It is hot trash. Like, I would rather watch hot trash than watch this film. And you know, a part of me really wanted to skip this movie on the review series and just pretend it never existed and live blissfully that the Child's Play franchise never had a dud movie. But the completionist in me would not let that happen, so unfortunately today we are checking out Seed of Chucky, much to my chagrin. Now this movie is one that I actively skipped out on because the trailers looked dumb, the concept seemed dumb, and the marketing was also very dumb as well. Like, I could tell this movie was not going to be good. And then I rented it from the video store, checked it out, and it was far worse than I imagined. And I can imagine some pretty awful shit, but yeah, nothing prepared me for this movie. So I watched this movie 2 times back then and then returned the DVD that I rented and never watched it again. And I had zero intentions of watching it again, but then I decided to start this channel, and it was kind of a must for this series because I've pushed a lot of this out of my memory. And it's for good reason, because this movie's not good, and there's hardly anything worth remembering about this film. Like, this movie hardly has any redeemable qualities, and it's a painful watch. However, if you're a fan of this movie, first off, more power to you. Respect. And if you are a fan, you know, sound off in the comments below and let me know what it is about this movie that you like, what about this movie is appealing to you. You could even do your own positives and negatives in the comments below. I do really enjoy reading it whenever you guys make your own review in the comments below. I do enjoy reading that, so feel free, by all means. Let me know in the comments below. Now, what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be breaking this down into 3 categories: the positives, the negatives, and the gray area. Let you know what I liked about this movie and what I didn't like about this movie. Then I'm going to talk about my favorite scene, let you know why it is my favorite scene, and then we will score this out of 10 and end the video. But here on The Night Shift, we always try to start things off on the bright side with... So obviously Chucky is one of my favorite slashers, and he is definitely my favorite part of this entire franchise.
I'm one of the most notorious slashers in history, and I don't want to give that up. I am Chucky, the killer doll, and I dig it!
You know, Chucky is obviously going to go on the positives here. He is the best part of this movie. And even though there's a few handful of jokes and quips that just don't really work for me, it's still fun because, you know, the good outweighs the bad in this instance. And, you know, Chucky's appearance looks really cool. Yet again, we are blessed to see the stitched up, tattered and torn Chucky. And, you know, I really like that look, and you know, my opinions are starting to change in doing this review series. Like, I'm really enjoying the tattered look a little bit more than I was the Child's Play 2 look. And Brad Dourif yet again delivers a wonderful performance as the killer doll, Chucky. Like, you cannot fuck with his vocal talent. So good. So yeah, Chucky looks cool. Although his quips aren't the best in this film, they're fine. They're not bad enough that I want to knock him off of the positive list. The positive list is struggling as is, so we let a few of the corny jokes slide. And Chucky is one of the only good things about this movie. So yeah, with that being said, let's move on to our next positive, which is... At least in this one, we get some decent kills. We get decapitations, melting of faces with acid. We get disembowelings and car explosions and pop stars being in those cars as they explode. You know, thankfully, in a movie this bad, we get a decent amount of kills and well executed kills, and it's the least they could have done for a film of this caliber. They didn't hold back on the bloodshed, and I greatly appreciate that. Good kills does not equal a good movie. So with that being said, that is the end of the positives list. The positives list was so long, felt like I was sitting here for a millennia just talking about all the good things with this movie. Now, with all of the positives out of the way, let's go ahead and move into our next segment, which is... Now, here on the night shift, the gray area is the middle ground. Stuff that wasn't good enough to be on the positives list, but also not bad enough to be put on the negatives list. So it is in the middle, in the gray area. So first up on the gray area, we have... It is very disheartening to see what they did with Tiffany in this movie.
A few years ago, I killed your husband, and I am so very, very sorry.
What is this, some kind of sick joke?
Oh, no. I'm completely serious. But I want you to know, I'm in recovery now.
She was such a badass in Bride of Chucky and a great welcomed new character and member of the Chucky franchise. Here, she started off kind of cool too, but they also made her very ditzy and dumb. She does have a handful of badass moments, but they really dumbed her character down a lot, and I'm not a fan of that. Like, they made her a great character in the previous film, and here she's just kind of like a ditzy airhead. Like, she doesn't feel nearly as evil as she did in Bride of Chucky, and in some regards they turned her into a fucking cartoon character, and it just kind of hurts to see, because she was a badass in the previous film, and in this film, not so much. And Jennifer Tilly reprised her role to play Tiffany, and she did an excellent job with what she was given. It's just unfortunate that they didn't give her much to work with, and it ended up being not the best. Where she's good, she's great, and where she's bad, she's pretty bad, and it is unfortunate, but it's not bad enough to be on the negatives list, but I could not in good conscience put Tiffany on the positives list at all. So next up on the gray areas list, we have... So the nerd in me is going to come out for this one just a little bit. I just love the fact that fucking Pippin from Lord of the Rings is the person that plays Glen Glenda. I find that absolutely hilarious, especially because Brad Dourif is Grima Wormtongue, the guy that whispers in the ear of Theoden and Rohan. I just love the fact that that we get two people from Lord of the Rings in a separate movie. The nerd in me is just like, love that shit. But, other than Pippin voicing Glen Glenda, I also like what Glen Glenda represents. I love that Glen Glenda is an homage to Norman Bates. Like, whenever they are Glen, they are very soft, very timid, very kind, and very loving. Much like Norman Bates was whenever Norman Bates was Norman Bates.
Not like that at all. I wouldn't even hurt a fly. Oh, there he goes.
But on the other hand, whenever they are Glenda, they are a homicidal maniac that has an insatiable bloodlust, much like Norma Bates.
Glenn? Guess again, Daddy. Glenda? That's my name. Don't you wear it out.
And in that regard, I love the homage to Psycho that Glen Glenda represents. I also like the inclusivity of a non-binary character and having people felt like they were seen in a movie. Up to this point, that wasn't really a thing, and so I like that this was our first active non-binary character or trans character, however you want to spin it, however you look at it. But I did have a friend back in the day who was trans, and Glen Glenda was their favorite character, and they had a bunch of Glen memorabilia in their room all the time. And unfortunately, they are no longer with us. They died from a drunk driver. And you know, I wish they were still alive, because not only do I miss them, but I would also love for them to explain what it is that they saw in this character. That being said, Glenn gets on my fucking nerves. Glenda's fucking cool and a homicidal maniac, and the attitude, the attitude change is great. But that being said, Glenn is a little bit on the annoying side, a little bit more annoying, a little too whiny for my liking, and they just really get on my fucking nerves. So, you know, all the good stuff that I said is kind of outweighed by being completely annoyed, at least until the end of this film, whenever we are introduced to Glenda. And like I said, Glenda is fucking cool, but Glenn is annoying. So, you know, I had to put them here on the gray area. My hands were tied, you know, like I didn't feel they deserved to be in the negatives, but they definitely didn't deserve to be in the positives because of how annoyed I am at this character. So, you know, split the difference and throw them here on the gray area. So that is just about going to do it for the gray area. Now we move on to the less bright side of things and even darker side of things with this story is not really a good one and not one that I really buy. So Glenn/Glenda, who is Tiffany and Chucky's love child that we get to see at the end of Bride of Chucky, has grown up. And, you know, after they grow up, they're watching TV and see Chucky and Tiffany, and because of Chunkany, because of Chucky's little made-in stamp on his wrist that Glenn also has, which has never appeared in any iteration of the Child's Play franchise. So, you know, that whole thing is absolutely contrived as fuck. But I digress. And Glenn and Glenda go to LA, where Chucky and Tiffany are being used for dolls for a horror movie. Glenn and Glenda resurrects their parents, and Chucky and Tiffany assume the role of homicidal parents. And, you know, they hatch a plan to impregnate Jennifer Tilly, because Jennifer Tilly plays Jennifer Tilly in this movie because funny. Meta. And yeah, so they're going to impregnate Jennifer Tilly and do voodoo rituals so that the baby grows faster. And then whenever the baby is born, they are going to body swap as a family. And yes, it is as dumb as it fucking sounds. However, one good thing about the story is that Chucky finally embraces that he is the killer doll and no longer wants to body swap with people and just live his life as a killer doll. So good on you, Chuck. But yeah, it's fucking dumb. We didn't even get like a strong or even halfway decent story. We were left with this, and it's not good. Like, even if we were given the best kills of a franchise, that's going to pale in comparison to the story. If the story is not good, which this story is not good, you're not going to have a good movie. Everything serves the story. Like, the kills serve the story. The cinematography serves the story. Everything serves the story, and that is the main crux of a movie, is the story. Like, the story, the plot, all of that is what makes a good movie good. Like, you can watch a movie that was filmed on a potato, but if the story's good, then you're going to enjoy the movie. But, you know, here, you don't have a good story. The story is not good at all. Like, there's nothing really redeeming other than, you know, Chucky just embracing the role of the killer doll. Other than that, there's nothing good about this movie, this story, at all. And you know, it sucks because they did so good in the previous 4 films. They did really good in the previous 4 films, and here they just dropped the ball, you know. And, you know, I understand not everything's going to be a banger, you know, like that's the mentality I have with this channel. Like, I know not everything that I'm doing is going to be my best video, but I make an active effort to not drop the ball that hard. And nothing about this seemed like a good idea. Like, what about this story seemed good at all? Like, I don't understand. I will never understand, but, you know, it is what it is. The story sucks, therefore everything else, no matter how good it could be, no matter how good the kills are, no matter how cool Chucky is, everything else is gonna fucking suck because the story sucks. So yeah, the story to this is absolutely terrible. I don't see any real redeeming qualities about it, and yeah, it sucks. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our next negative, which is... I love camp. I love a campy movie. I love a terribly bad campy movie. Those are guilty pleasures of mine. I enjoy them. Sleepaway Camp is one of my all-time favorite movies, and that movie is just riddled with camp. The whole watch time, the whole runtime is filled with camp, but it's a good camp. And despite what some people might say, you can have too much of a good thing. It is possible to have too much of a good thing. This film is overly campy in the worst ways possible. Like, there's a lot of reliance on humor that just doesn't work in this film, and it's almost painful to watch. Like, I specifically remember watching the trailer in the theater because it was attached to another movie I was watching in the theaters, and it's the scene where Chucky runs Britney Spears off the road, and oops, I did it again. Like, why? Why was that the move? Why is any of this a choice? Why did they go to the lengths that they did in this film? Like that? It's so unbelievably cringe, and that's coming from me. Like, fucking look at me. Like, this is so far beyond anything that should have been greenlit for a film. Like, this had to go through so many hands, and so many people had to have read this, corporate people, and it got signed off on. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? Like, a majority of the time, jokes need to be pre-approved for production. You know, you see them in the dailies, and they passed. Like, all the jokes, everything that we see passed, and producers were all like, "Good job, buddy. Great job. Great film. Love it." I just don't know how so many people could drop the ball so bad, because this movie is so fucking bad. Oh my God. I rented this movie whenever it came out on DVD and was able to be rented. I checked it out, and I never watched it again up until now, when I'm unfortunately a lot older. But I have often found myself changing my tune about movies that I was harsh on back when I was a kid. Back when I was a teenager, there were movies that I hated that I love now, and I was hoping that there was something that was going to be a little bit more redeemable for this film. Like, maybe having not seen it in a very long time would have changed my attitude towards it, but actually, yeah, it did. It makes me hate it so much worse, because it is a piece of fucking shit. And that's it for the reviewing portion of this, and now we move on to our next segment, which is... believe it or not, in a movie this bad, I do actually have a favorite scene. Whenever this scene is approaching, I just light up with glee, and that is going to be... fuck this movie. So when it comes to this movie, we have two really strong negatives, and we have two gray areas that are just kind of alright, but at the same time, they're kind of bad. So yeah, I definitely highly recommend skipping this movie and never watching it again, because it is fucking trash. That is it for the video, and it's now time to score this movie. So out of a possible 10 points, I'm giving this a solid 2 out of 10. And you know what? I think that is one of the lowest scores that I've ever given a movie in any of these movie reviews. So yeah, it's a piece of shit. So that is just about going to do it for me. If you liked the video, let me know by leaving me a like. Comment down below what you want to see on the channel next. I will do my best to accommodate. I really will. And until next time, my name is Nightshade. This has been The Night Shift, and I will see you in the next video. Stay spooky, my friends.